Hey everyone, this is Isaac. I'm CEO at Trullion, and today on AI Accounting Intelligence, we'll be talking with real people about real things related to AI and the impact on the accounting industry. Stay tuned. Good day, everyone. I'm here with Nic Boucher. I'm really excited to talk to Nic again. We've gotten to know each other, in recent months. Nic, good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me and talk to everybody who is interested in AI and accounting and finance in general.
Very nice. Well, Nic, I'm from Texas, and I did hear the name Boucher when I was young, but it was from my friends in Louisiana, from the Cajun, the families in the South. Boucher, where are you from? Where are you talking from today?
So I'm living in Germany, but as your audience might hear, I'm coming from France. I also lived in the US 1 year. That's where I met my wife, who is German, and now together we live in Germany. I worked also in Luxembourg and Singapore when I was working at PwC. And basically, yeah, I feel myself as a citizen of the world, and happy also to be able to talk through technology to everybody in the world, because I think we are really lucky right now that we can have access to people like you, like in the US or in Israel. I think later I will talk to people that are in the east of the world. So happy to speak to this worldwide audience.
That's amazing. And I think that's why you and I get along. I grew up in Texas, of course. I spent a little bit of time abroad in southern China. My wife is also German, which is fun. And, we've lived in a few places as well. So it's really exciting. And I know today we're going to go deep and wide in terms of international versus US and startups versus enterprises as it relates to AI innovation and finance. But before we jump in, I mean, like Nic, you've built a pretty cool career out of this. You mentioned PwC, but maybe just tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit more about how you became really one of the experts in innovation and finance.
Yeah, so it started actually as a kid. I always loved to use technology to help myself. To also, like, as an anecdote, my dad, when I got my first computer. So at the time, almost nobody had computers, and I had a computer. And when I was on holiday, instead of, like playing games or playing outside, he asked me, first, you need to do for me some work. And so, like all of these Excel templates that you need for checklist and all of this, my dad was drawing that on paper and asking me to do that. And he was really demanding because he's a technical drawer. So he really wanted that everything is perfect and aligned. So that's how I learned how to use Excel, how to use the computer. And later on, I use it also for fun. But really, for me, it started when I was at PwC and I was looking at everybody working really hard. And I had also to work hard. But I found that if you had the right Excel formula, if you knew how to use Excel the right way, and after PowerPoint, I could just like leave and be done before everybody else, or do more than the rest. So, and then what I loved about that is not keeping that for myself, but also sharing that with my teams. And later on, I felt that there was much more to share than only for a small team of 10 people. So that's where I went on and go on LinkedIn to have like a bigger speaker. And now when AI and ChatGPT really got democratized more than 1.5 years ago, I really felt that both what I've built as an audience, plus my knowledge in finance, because I worked 15 years in leadership position, plus my knowledge of technology and my curiosity, I could combine all of the three to show to a lot of finance professionals how to use AI in finance, and especially generative AI.
That's awesome. And I must say, we have to put you in the category of influencer, given a lot of the great stuff that you've put out and people read. And I really love to hear that you talk about kind of the curiosities you had when you were younger and with your father and stuff. And I think that, there's a lot happening in the finance and accounting industry, and sometimes people feel a lot of career pressure. I've always found that sometimes it's good to think back to what you enjoyed when you were, early teenager, maybe even when you were a kid, and just kind of continue in a place that will make you passionate like that. What I've also noticed is that there's a few people like Nick who are putting out great materials online, whether it's, templates or resources. I mean, is there like a community? Would you call it finance and accounting influencers? Is there a community? Do you have a lot of friends in different regions or different segments, and you guys have gotten to know each other over the years?
Yeah, we that's how myself, when I wanted to work and build my own business, I reach out to people who were already giving training or having their own consulting company or doing fractional CFO. And I kind of build my circle of influence with people like Anders Gullenberg, Josh Aronoff, Paul Barnhurst, and because they were like one step ahead of me. And like you are the average of the 5 people you talk the most to. And so for a while, we were really like we had a really small group where we exchanged a lot of best practices. And now, as there are more and more people, especially on LinkedIn, sharing information, but also people giving courses or people doing consulting and finance, I build a big Slack group with everybody that want to join from finance, where we really share a lot of best practices because all of us, we are either like working alone or having a team of freelancers with us, but we don't really have colleagues. And like this, we are a group of 50 people with colleagues. And it's crazy to see like the value shared inside of a lot of people. I think they gain like 6 months of time just by joining and asking questions and being ahead of everybody else who is not in this group.
That's amazing, and it's connecting the world. And uh, Nick mentioned a few names like Enders and Josh and Paul, and those are all great resources as well. I think Paul Bernhurst, right? That's his name.
Yes.
He's known as the FP&A guy. Is that right? Something like
Yeah.
that. Okay. So Nic Boucher, fill in the blank, is the blank guy. What is the area that you're going deeper into in this big world of finance and accounting?
Yeah. Well, I would say for me is Nicolas is the AI finance guy because that's where I am spending my time today to research a lot, to connect with people like you, with founders in the finance tech AI industry. And I also built the AI Finance Club, which is a community and membership of CFOs, fractional CFOs, head of finance, who have, like an appetite and a curiosity on how to use AI in finance, but they found out that by themselves they cannot learn everything, and also they have a job on the side. So even though it's fun to learn, there is just too much. And by putting everything I know and everything I'm working on, but also just for myself is not enough. So I'm bringing experts like Christian Martinez, like Glenn Hooper, like soon Emma Shaper, the Excel dictionary girl, who is really good with AI and Excel. She's also coming as expert. And I'm gathering all of these experts who already spend a lot of time working on how to use AI for finance and putting that in an exclusive environment where every week people get either a video course, an article, or a masterclass on how to use AI for finance.
That's awesome. Um, and just for those of you like viewing or listening, it's the early days of finance and innovation. I mean, if I would have maybe gone back, I don't know, 30 years ago or whenever Excel was coming out, I guarantee you there were just a few people using Excel and early Excel, and there was clubs and groups, and now it's become ubiquitous across the world. And so some of these skills, which I know we'll talk about later, are still in the early days. You mentioned founders. I mean, first of all, me again, Isaac from Trullion, like we love to talk about AI. We love to talk about finance. We love to talk about accounting, but we tend to talk about the things that our software does, like leases, RevRec, audit, whatever it is. I think it's really important that the leaders of the next kind of movement of AI in finance are practitioners. People are coming from within, people have experienced themselves. Obviously, you do partnerships with, I'm sure, good software and AI and stuff like that. But like, I think it's so important that the next generation is practitioners. The software providers will be there, but that you need to hear from the people that can actually show you day to day, not just what they're doing in specific areas, but kind of across the spectrum. And talking about founders, I remember your AI map when it came out about a month ago. So if you guys haven't seen this, Nicolas has a top 100 AI finance tools. This had over 1,000, tens of thousands of views and reactions. I also realized that just in the past couple of weeks, the biggest and one of the most prestigious venture capital groups in the world, Andreessen Horowitz, came up with their own AI and accounting map. I mean, first of all, what's your reaction? Because it's not just Andreessen. I mean, Greylock wrote an article and Emergence Capital wrote an article, and we're seeing more and more reaction there. What's your initial reaction when you see all these big guys a little bit after you creating their maps?
Well, if you have to compare like my structure where I'm alone with a team of freelancers and some experts and Andreessen Horowitz, I'm quite glad that we could release that, and ours is actually more complete because I think they have maybe like 50 tools. We have 100. I don't really compare myself or will not compare both, because what I expect from them is that they have had really deep analysis on each of the tool. When I was building that, like there are maybe like a list of 300 tools behind, and I was really like filtering all of the tools to see, okay, which ones already have clients, which ones have serious founders, which one have use cases that are really AI and not just like a mini layer, which was really hard. And for me, there was a lot of credibility about my voice when I was building this AI roadmap, this AI map, sorry. And I think we spent like from the beginning, I think it was like 6 months ago, I did a list when I started the AI Finance Club. And then really like at the end to select the 100, we took another month. Then to build that also visually, it takes also a lot of time to group that. I think the grouping was really hard. And I remember like for Trullion, I was not sure if I should put that in revenue recognition, in lease accounting, in accounting automation. So, and I ask you after, and then like there is like still some interpretation to correct. But this is really hard to do because I was my first AI or my first tool map. And I think Andreessen Horowitz, they have a methodology to do that. So I had to learn how to do it. But for me, what was really important is to talk to the people behind these tools. And I think out of the 100, I think like half of them, I had a call with them and I did the demos and all of this to really vet what was on the map. And I think if I did that, it's not really for me. I did it because I was asked almost every other day, oh, which tools exist there and which tools are serious? And then I thought, okay, I need to do that because there is a demand, there is a need, and I see myself as somebody who has a chance to talk to all of these founders and to see these tools. And I wanted to do that for all of the people in finance, and also to give some exposure to the people that are doing a great job like yourself without like there is no real partnership behind. But I think if somebody is doing a good work, I need to use my audience to show that the good work is done. So like this, the word in finance gets better.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a really important emphasis, is there was demand for it. I mean, when people are trying to build their voice, even their career, and they want to go on LinkedIn or they want to go on Twitter, or they want to go on these sites and build it, it's great to be a leader, but at some point you have to understand what people want and kind of construct to some extent your content, your message, your education around what people want. And it's just the same as it's always been. People are asking 100 questions and you could give it to them in one place. That's successful. Now, Nic, I'm just thinking about all those startups, number 101 and 102 and 103. I remember when I was starting 4 years ago, to be on a map or to not be on a map, it's like, oh no, why didn't you pick me? So I'm sure there was some tough ones that didn't make the map or were very close. Do you plan on updating it? What's your methodology for keeping up with the top 100 tools? Does it go to 200? Does it get refreshed every year? How are you thinking about it?
Well, the big advantage of having done this, it's the first version. So it got me into a lot of discussions with either tools that were not on the map and asking, we should talk because I think you will like our tool and we need to show it to you. So like this, I don't have to search for it anymore. Like tools come to me. So that's a big advantage. The second one is also that I talk to people in the VC environment that have already skin in the game, and like they talk to a lot of early startups. And recently I talked to somebody from the PayPal Venture Capital Fund, and that was really interesting to hear the other stories, to hear maybe more about fintech than only purely accounting and AI. And that's for me an opportunity to learn more tools. And each time I learn more about the tools in the industry, then I can give that to the audience. And knowing the fact that more than 1 million people follow me, that's 1 million people more that will get to know about these tools.
That's awesome. And I do think the perspectives are important. It's really hard to say, I'm going to do my best and put the 100 together. I would imagine it's a very vulnerable feeling, right? Because these are all great companies and they do something different, and maybe the perception of their company is in the wrong, and to put that out there, it's really important. But what's more important is doing it. I mean, we need Nic's perspective. We need Andreessen's perspective. We need all the different perspectives and kind of to put it together. Maybe I'll ask you a bit of a curveball. I'm looking at your finance chart, and a lot of these tools have raised funding in 2024. I know that Numeric just announced a round, which is a close management tool. Clarity is a document reading tool, just announced a big round. I know that Data Snipper over in Amsterdam announced a big round as well. I think they made it to unicorn status. I mean, I could go down. There's so many companies that are announcing new rounds. Hebia is another one that's more like fund research, and just announced 130 million from Andreessen Horowitz. Do you have a perspective on that early scale venture model? Do you think some of these tools that are raising a bunch of money are complete game changers? Do you have a sense of, is this overhyped, underhyped, just right? What's your perspective as you see the dollars coming in with the maps?
So what was interesting is I get to see like really young tools, I would say, tools that are just developed, where you see that the function is not something new. It's just either the UX is better or they niche down on one topic. And like one example, a lot of tools now are just tools where you query the data. So they ask the user to load structured data, and then there is like a chatbot where you can talk with the data. And for this, like having now seen a lot of tools, when somebody shows that to me, I am a bit suspicious if it's a real innovation. So I take a bit like I'm patient about that, and I want to see, okay, like who is really using it? Like, how are you going to deal with the problem? Number one is that if you already have a structured data, probably you have already a business intelligence, and then the value added by querying the data is not really high. It's more if you come and do something from unstructured data, then you can bring a lot of value. And that I almost didn't see, like the black box, like the magic black box that will unstructured data, make them structure, and then create a management reporting or insights for the CEO. That almost doesn't exist yet. Or if it exists maybe just for one vertical. And so this tool I'm kind of still waiting for that is there. What I see is tools like yours or like Puzzle or like Numeric or like GleanAI or Abzen, where they are really good in one vertical, meaning that if you give like a workflow or like the value chain from A to Z, then everything is covered. But what actually like a lot of small companies want is the magic AI tool. And they want that because they don't understand yet what AI can do, and they got promised that AI can solve everything. And once you go beyond that, like once you educate the CFOs, the CEOs, they will understand that they have to focus actually really to a vertical and to take what is existing now, or to take also open source or or off-the-shelf products. And I would say like big tools that are going to do much more than what is currently available is yet to be done and is much more work. And maybe that's my prediction, but once Gemini, OpenAI, Microsoft Azure with OpenAI, and Anthropic, once they are going to have APIs with all of the existing tools, that's where it's going to be hard to compete with this, because even though they are not specialized in finance, they just need to have an API with QuickBooks and an API with a CRM tool like Salesforce, and then they can create a lot of value or make a lot of automation. And that's, I think, really hard and dangerous when you want to build a startup right now, because this is either you benefit from it if you know how to use it, or either like it kills your business.
Got it. So that, by the way, that was great articulation. I'll share, kind of some of our experience as well. So when it relates to the funding, so a startup announcing 10 or 30 or $50 million out of the gate from a big investor like Andreessen Horowitz, presumably, I mean, we are finance guys, you and me, presumably they believe that that can be a $1 billion outcome or even more. And realistically, in order to be a $1 billion outcome, you have to do something amazing or compete in really big spaces like ERP, FP&A, and such, or have just multiple products and grow. And I think what you said like magic wand or magic box, like I think that's where they're expecting those companies to be one day when they invest them in. So they're thinking today it's one check, but in 10 years or 5 years or whatever the horizon is, it'll be a magic wand. Now, Nic, we see what you see, which is there's not going to be this magic wand, right? We got all of the AI information. It was very exciting. There were some very new innovative use cases, but a lot of the challenges that we have in finance and accounting are the same today as they were yesterday, which is getting a complete data picture. And I think that's where your point about the structured data, they're called like wrappers, like a GPT wrapper on top of structured data. That might be cool. It might be impressive. We call it a party trick. It's like, hey, look what I can do. I downloaded ChatGPT and put some finance data in it. But the challenge is not necessarily you call it business intelligence or insights. The challenge sometimes is getting all that structured data in the right place so that the LLM or the GPT can bring it in. So I think you're definitely right that those wrappers are going to look really cool right now, but they're going to fade away or be tucked into a broader feature set. So for example, I saw a startup that automates technical memo writing, right? Memo writing. Well, that's content creation. That's a really good GPT use case, right? As long as you have the data. And so I would think that memo writing shouldn't be a standalone tool. It should be embedded in maybe ERP, FP&A, whatever it is. Some of these things where if you have the data, you can create it. So that's kind of the wrapper idea. And then, yeah, you got it on the workflow. I mean, we at Trullion, we took the perspective of, number one, in order to do the data extraction, you have to have something unique. It has to maybe, what we can do with leases or revenue contracts is proprietary. Now, LLMs may be able to do 70% of it and keep going 1% every year, but we're going to stay 5, 10, 15% ahead because we focus on it and our clients value that incremental value. But that's not enough. Even that's not enough, right? Because GPTs can be cheaper than buying a new SaaS license. And so then we add the workflow. So it's like GAAP or IFRS. And if you connect the data extraction and the workflow, then maybe you have something. But just talking that out loud and talking with you, I realized like you really have to compete hard to get ahead of the GPT wrappers and to stay ahead of Gemini and OpenAI, which could be an API into the tool. So I think you have a really, really, good perspective of the market. You mentioned the Geminis and the OpenAIs of the world. Do you think that they're going to catch up and take more market share of the AI finance market, or they are going to be these kind of emerging new tools in the AI space? Do you have a sense of, or your crystal ball on whether the big guys take it or some startups have some room to grow? And you know how we feel at Trullion or our customers.
Well,
yeah.
I think for big structure, I believe they will still count and they will need ERPs. So the question is, how fast are the ERPs going to have really AI functions to compete with? Like, if you see what you can do with now with ChatGPT, you are expecting that from SAP, from Oracle. They are starting, like they are cooperating. For example, SAP is cooperating with Microsoft Copilot to work within Office, and maybe tomorrow, that's what I expect, is that by the end of the year, you can do a bank reconciliation and send an email to your clients with a connection between SAP and Outlook and Excel. But they are already not yet, like they promise this, but we're still yet to see if it works. What I think is, for smaller structure, if today you can use something with Zapier, with even Power Automate from Microsoft, and document intelligence from Microsoft, just to get the invoice, then extract the information from the invoice and book this inside your QuickBook or Xero or NetSuite, then why do you need an OCR tool for your accounts payables? And I think this is going to be, for a lot of structure, like the arbitrage between, okay, we are as a company level going to automate with these 3-4 tools, or each department will take care of their own process and choose the tools they want. And I think as it would be a choice between, like, how strong is the department against the company's central automation team or process team. But I think if the ones that are going to be faster at developing those automation are going to be OpenAI, Azure, Gemini, and maybe like the ones of Zapier, the ones of so automation tools. And for this, I think the IT team is going to come and say, well, you don't need an account payables tool. We can do your account payables right now with just like it was within one day. And it's really true. Like, you connect document intelligence to your QuickBooks, and then it's done. It's like a really easy API integration. And you can take a lot of processes like this and integrate between departments. And I think then the current tools are a risk, because the easier it is to connect the generic tools like Zapier, OpenAI, Azure to the ERP tools or CRM tools. The harder is going to be for finance tools to exist, especially at the cost where it is right now, where it is big SaaS costs, and you will have to have an edge to stay and to be relevant.
Yeah, definitely. And to even circle back, we live in the venture world, and Trullion, we've started to build a more efficient business in terms of our operating model. But a lot of my peers, when they take the capital, they operate at a very, very kind of high burn rate. And I think that as cloud costs go up, and AI is expensive, like processing costs and tokens and all these areas are very, very expensive. And so if you're just passing through document processing, those margins are not the same as classic SaaS companies, right? Your COGS, I don't think people are accounting for it correctly in terms of kind of AI costs in their COGS. I'm sure they'll get there, but like, it'll be really, really hard to compete with incumbents who are already installed, and you'll want to raise your SaaS fee, but people will say, okay, well, I don't need to pay that much for an additional tool, right? So I think it's very, very interesting. Now, you've talked about different size companies having different roadmaps, right? And you can imagine someone who's listening, maybe working at a startup, maybe working at a privately owned family business, maybe working at a public or large enterprise companies. How do you think about, there are a couple different categories. What are the different types of roadmaps that different size companies are thinking about?
Yeah, so for me, there are 3 types of roadmaps based on the size of the companies. And the smaller companies could be also the same type of roadmap that you could have in a team of a big company. So let's start with SMEs, so small size companies. There, I think you have the flexibility, but also the constraints of low budget, and also the constraints that you have. You don't have that many tasks that are high repetition with low value added. Like everybody works in a lot of different tasks. So if you want to save time, you have to work on a lot of different tasks. And for this, I will first advise for the team to be upskilled on how to use generative AI and also how to use machine learning if you want to do forecasting with Python. So those are the two skills really to build is know how to use ChatGPT, Gemini, and even Copilot in your all of your tools that you already have today and see how you can do your task better, faster, so you can produce more and work less, or at least produce more with the same amount of time. Then the second part is if you are already, let's say, a medium-sized company, and there is one process that is really demanding. So let's say accounts payable. Or let's say, even say like for your, if we take your industry or your niche, where is lease accounting, you are a company with a lot of contracts for leasing. Maybe like either you rent out like machines or you borrow machines, but if you are in this industry, then you might need for one of the processes, so for example, for lease accounting, a specific tool like Trullion. So for this, if you are medium size, or if you are in a big international company, but you have a business that is focusing on that, then I will advise to start getting specific AI tools that will accelerate those processes and allow more time for the people working on these processes that are really demanding in time, but with low value. And also because those processes will bring the data more structured, then normally the management and the people working on it will have faster and better insights. Then what you can also start is to start also using models for forecasting for machine learning that are existing because you have enough data. Because if you are like a medium size, you can start to combine macro and internal data to do some forecasting on existing models like time series or linear regressions. And this is not so hard anymore to do because it's not only for data science. You don't need a data science team. If today you use ChatGPT and Python together, you can really, like in half an hour, build a mini model that shows you if you increase your marketing expenses in some areas, what is the impact on your revenue. So that's, I would say, like for medium size. And then for big companies, so inside their companies, the teams of these big companies, they can do like the SMEs. So everybody will upskill themselves and use the open tools or the off-the-shelf tools. And inside those big companies, either countries or I would say business units can do like middle-sized companies. But at international level and at really like headquarters level, you can start having teams that are really focusing on using AI within all of the data that you have, like having a big data lake where you connect your CRM data, your ERP data, your supply chain, your web analytics data. And where from this, you are going to also build your own models to get insight, but also to forecast. And like, I think nobody in these companies waited that OpenAI was there or Gemini was there. They already have teams working on that. But now those teams, first, they get either more means because everybody knows that it's a priority, or they get more pressure because everybody is also expecting more from them compared to before. So I think that's one. And second, you will now that LLMs are cheaper and also easier to use, you will have to start to make value from all of the data that exists inside your company to have an edge compared to the data that is outside and available for everybody. And that's where, again, like you will have to combine your own data with the LLM models that exist to make your own model where only you have access to that and you can create value from this.
I love that. And, if you just heard that, you should probably rewind and listen to it again, because those were very good, clear recommendations for kind of the three different levels of businesses. You mentioned one thing, Python, which I want to come back to, right? That's a scary word in some circles, right? That's for engineers, not for finance professionals, but maybe you'll correct me. But also it sounded like when you can implement some of these AI models, whether it's at an SME or a large company, you talked a lot about insights and forecasting, right? A lot of what we do at Trullion is accounting, right? And accounting compliance. But we always say, like, if you're getting the data in for GAAP and IFRS to streamline it, you may be able to do more with it. I guess my first thought is, do a lot of the AI initiatives get driven by cost savings or more insights, or is there some mix? First of all, do you have a sense there of whether people are driven by cost or insights or both or something else?
Yeah, I think that generally is really hard to identify the cost saving because it will not like make a team obsolete or a team irrelevant. It will just help one part of the process to be either faster or to produce more value. And people are still there, and you just need to use them better to also from themselves create more value. And that's why, because in finance, we are not really like, if you take accounts payable apart, where there it exists already since a long time that you have automation of invoice processing. I think there, yes, you can save cost. But for all of the other processes, I think there is a lot more of creating insights, getting better forecasting models, and also getting people out of the data crunching and that they spend more time on analyzing the figures, but also just use their human skills to go and talk to the business, to go and figure out themselves some propositions to help the business. And also maybe for some teams just have more time for themselves as individual, because having an overworked team also is not good for the business. So if you can have all of this together, it's really hard to identify cost savings. But I think today you don't have the choice anymore to not use it, because other business will use it, and then you will start to lose market share, because for the same price, another company is going to offer more value and maybe with less people. So that's where I see. And I read a lot of articles that people expect the value, but nobody has the ROI yet. I think maybe in marketing agencies is easy because I needed 10 people this month for 10 clients. Now next month, I only need 5 people because I write everything with ChatGPT. But I talk with marketing agencies and they say 80-90% can be done, but you still need 10%, and that only the humans can do if you want to stay at the top.
Yeah, definitely. We see that too. Nobody's going anywhere. I guess the challenge becomes, how do I internally become more of an AI champion, right? Because if I can say that I can move faster or produce more value, that's a harder business case to a CFO than, hey, I can reduce headcount in my supply chain, or I can reduce the cost of something in my supply chain. I also love, we have to be inspired by our friends in the French in France, who really know how to have good quality of life and work hard. So I don't know if that's in the blood or just you, but I think that's really good to have some of the work-life balance. I mean, look, here in America, you have people that are spending 50, 60, 70 hours a week in audit or in their close processes, staying up late during quarterly closes. I mean, it really can be, I would say, a taxing, no pun intended, at times. So perhaps AI will give you a little bit more continuity or smoothing out. Now, one thing that you mentioned was Python. I haven't heard this as much. At Trullion, my partner is our product and engineering leader. We have many people in our company that use Python and React and some of the best code. What's interesting is there's a whole AI world around coding and engineering, but it's also interesting that you mentioned in the accounting world, having those Python skills might be increasingly valuable. How do you see that connected with AI and some of the things we've been talking about?
Yeah, so for me, 2023 was the year of ChatGPT and generative AI. And now 2024, if you're in finance and you already master generative AI, you should go to Python. So Python is the new tool to learn. You know how pivot table, how just mastering Excel was really needed in the last years. Now Python is becoming this new tool because Excel is not enough. For reasons why. First, you cannot do complex visualizations within Excel. Like try to do a heat map, try to do even a map, like a geographical map is really, really hard and you need a lot of time. While in Python, you just need like a mini line of code and then your data is represented in a heat map. Then second, in Excel, there is Power Query, but only a few people know it, but it's still really long. You need to click everywhere to automate your data processing, your data crunching, if you want to combine files. And with Python, with just one line of code, you can combine, for example, 100 files together and it takes 1 second. And now the beauty of it is that this line of code, you don't need to know how to code it yourself. You can just ask a generative AI tool to get the code, and then the work is done. Then the third part is that for complex financial analysis, you need to build a really complicated model in Excel, while in Python, again, if you use coding with generative AI, you can build a model really quickly. And the fourth one, what actually we all got promised to use AI for forecasting, but you cannot do that in Excel because Excel doesn't have a forecasting function. So Python has that. Python has algorithm, for example, like Prophet, which is an algorithm from Facebook that you can just download. It's for free. And you can use this algorithm to forecast, for example, your seasonality of data plus a trend on your revenue. And what you just need is historical data, and you apply the code on it, and it will give you the trend for the next 12 months or 3 years. And this is really available now for everybody, but only if you accept to break the barrier of not being afraid by Python. And the good news is that it's actually now really easy because you don't need to install Python. You just need to use something like Google Colab, which is a place like Google Doc or Google Sheets, where you just need to put the code inside. And second, you don't need to know how to code. You ask generative AI with your own words how to do the code for Python to combine 100 files, and it will do it for you. So there is really no reason anymore. And we teach that, like I have tomorrow evening, a new training, a new cohort where we take CFOs, we take fractional CFOs, we take head of finance. We show them in 10 minutes how they can use Python. And you should see their eyes opening and saying, wow, like there is so much I can do now. And even myself, I never learned how to use Python. And every week I'm using it to combine files and to automate some of my processes.
That's amazing. Yeah, I never understood why they named it after a snake. You know, most people are afraid of big snakes, but Python has become the universal, most common kind of code these days. And I also think it's cool that you have ChatGPT almost as your assistant to help you learn Python, right? You don't have to be an expert overnight. And you also don't need to learn all the deep nuances. You can almost have a co-pilot in ChatGPT or whatever it is to help you learn some of those Python things. You also mentioned that there's CFOs and heads of finance that are learning Python. I think that's super important. I mean, I think there's some people out there, they're going to say, okay, well, I'm at this point in my career, you know, I've managed a team or I've managed teams of teams, and I'll let those guys figure out, you know, all the AI and all the Python and stuff like that. But I think even going to a class like Nicolas or any type of ongoing education can be very valuable because you want to be dangerous. You want to understand what they're thinking. You want to understand what they're learning. You want to maybe maybe you'll even suggest, hey, have you thought about using a Python script for that forecast that you're trying to automate? But you don't just want to say it because you saw it on, Nicholas's LinkedIn. Like, you want to say it because you felt it and you thought about it. And I think that's super important. It feels a little bit in talking to you and our customers that there is a feeling of some level of renaissance in finance and accounting as it relates to the businesses and the new types of tools, whether it's Python or AI. And my sense has always been, in America, I don't know how it is in France or Germany, but the nickname is bean counters. Have you ever heard that one
Yeah,
for
yeah.
accountants? Yeah, bean counters. That's not really a fair name because the impression is, someone who's only looking at their computer, looking at the spreadsheets or whatever it is. In my experience growing up in finance teams, the financial leaders were the most quantitative and tech savvy people, right? That's the other thing is we assume because, the old Oracle or SAP interface is so old or Excel seems so rigid that it's not a tech sat. No, no, listen, finance and accounting is the quantitative field. I mean, probably adopting Excel in the early days was one of the most advanced areas. So I just have this general impression, I've always felt like this, that financial leaders are early adopters. They are highly technical. They are quantitative. The only thing is, they have a very high bar. Like, we have a very high bar for what needs to work, and we're okay taking bad UX, bad UI, something that's old, as long as it works, right? And what does it mean to work? The numbers are right, right? The numbers are accurate. The numbers are reliable. That is the best feeling in the world, and the worst feeling when there's one, decimal error or whatever it is. So maybe just like in our last kind of few minutes, I mean, Nick, this has been like great talking to you, but talk a little bit about upskilling and then just mastering AI and why finance is the right place or the right industry to master AI. Give us some inspiration, coming out of this and being more curious and advancing our domain.
Yeah, I really agree with what you just said. I think people in finance are too humble also because we don't see how much we have to deal every day. We need to master the ERP. We need to know everybody in all of the departments. We need to deal with a lot of changes. We are at the end of all of the processes, and it needs to work like the figures work. And even if when the figure comes is not right, we need to make it right. So because of this, finance is actually the right place to be champion of using AI. I often use it as, for me, my objective. I really want the finance teams to be the champion of AI in business because AI is good with data because it can process much more data than what we can use. AI is really good with forecasting. AI is also really good by using, I'll say, like non-structured data and to structure it. And for now, like in finance, that's the part that we do it with our brain. When you go and you talk with your colleagues from the business and you get to hear that there is a change in the contract, but you don't see that in the figures. That's where you use your brain to make something qualitative and you connect with the figures. And for this, because we have the best knowledge of the business and how to translate it in figures, we should use AI to do that at scales because we are the best place in the business to do that. And I really believe we should stop being humble, but really like use all of our skills, which are not only bean counting, but technology, knowledge of the business. And also we are really good, I think, at connecting the dots between all of the departments. And because of this, we should be the ones that are the first one to show the value of AI, and especially either in forecasting with machine learning, or either if you look at the insights from the historical data to make some proposition for the business. So to everybody listening to us, you are already ahead normally if you are listening today, because a lot of people choose not to listen on their extra time. So if you are here, that means you are ahead, but continue to be ahead by learning how to use AI for finance. And also once you learn, don't keep it for yourself, just share it around because we also need to grab everybody with us that don't have the chance or the appetite for curiosity, but they need to come with us and to continue to move finance towards the future.
I love it. I love it. And I have to share, I can't hold it in. I was speaking with chief accounting officer a couple of weeks ago, one of our customers. They're a mid-cap public company and chief accounting officer, and he recently got a promotion in the past year. He's now also the CIO, right? So CIO and chief accounting officer. I haven't seen that before. I mean, he's very talented, and with his permission, we'll do another interview. But he implemented Trullion, right? And it was one of the only AI use cases across the business. And now in 2024 and 2025, they've identified 25 use cases, not just in accounting. Actually, the least are in accounting, and most of them are across the business and customer experience and supply chain and everything. So I thought that was a very, very interesting career path. I don't know if that's going to be an exception or something we see more often, but it really reminds me of what you're saying, which is the finance and accounting team can be the next champion of AI and technology. Last thought, what's next for you? What are you most excited about? Is it your course on Python? Is it a new roadmap that's coming out? Give us some preview of what we should look out for next.
What I'm the most excited with is really the AI Finance Club, because that's the place where every week we bring a new piece of content. For example, this week we released a comparison from written by the chief data scientist of a bank, who showed us how to the comparison between the open LLMs and the proprietary LLMs. So think about Mistral, for example, for open LLMs, and proprietary, so OpenAI, and when to use which one based on your business, based on your constraints. This week, I'm going to release a mini video course on how to use ChatGPT 4o, the data analysis part, or code interpreter. And also soon I'm going to release a mini course on Claude 3.5, because with artifacts, there's a lot of new cool things that Claude can do. And we have a masterclass in 1 week where we are going to talk about how to build your own AI roadmap in finance. So that's for me right now what makes me the busiest, and excited that more people will join, because there is so much information inside now after 7 months that the club exists. And you can imagine, like, every week a new piece of content times 7 months. Now it's already a lot to learn.
I love it. Awesome. Okay, good. So encouraging everyone to check it out. Nicolas Boucher, nearly 1 million followers on LinkedIn, and we'll post, and not just a face of finance, but someone who backs it up, and I think really has some good original insights into this industry. So as always, Nic, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Isaac, and good day to everybody listening to us.